Hey guys, I am in St. Louis and we just shot our first night of concert footage. Flew in yesterday, we did one night of shooting, just woke up, we got another night of shooting to do. St. Louis, Missouri, the gateway to the West. We're doing 2 nights in a row. The band's playing Friday and Saturday, and they're agreed to wear all the same clothes, all the way down to their socks. I am in this place called absolutely Nowhereville, Illinois, outside of St. Louis. So Edwardsville, I think it's called, Illinois. Guys, when I say Nowheresville, I mean Nowheresville. Take a look. Number one problem we had, biggest problem, was keeping focus. And I don't mean focus as in turning your focus ring on your lens and focusing, or autofocus even. I'm talking depth of field. And so when you're in these low light concert scenarios and you've got this 1.8 or 2.8 lens, you really want to open it up and let as much light in as you can, right? Problem. When you do that, you create this very short depth of field. In other words, only a very small amount of the stage area is in focus. So this wasn't working for me. Well, I need some assistance. Did anyone hear a word I said? So good. Won't somebody please take me to my bed? Here's what's going on in the concert hall. Something called depth of field. Let's start with a very basic explanation. If my camera is here and my subject is here, and I take and focus on their face, well, wherever my focus point is in my camera, that is the focal plane. Everything up and down along that plane will be in perfect focus. 1/3 in front and 2/3 behind will be in what we call acceptable focus, and this is all called our depth of field. And this is the area that is in focus. Now, this area that is in focus, right, based off our focus point, well, this area can get bigger and smaller. It gets bigger and smaller depending on what aperture we use. So a small aperture, let's say 1.4, that's a very big hole in our lens. That's wide open. And when we shoot wide open, we have a very short depth of field. If I stop down to an f5, the hole gets about half as big, and my depth of field, even though I'm focusing on the same focal plane, right, their face, even though I'm focusing at the same thing, well, because it's f5, that 1/3 in front is bigger, and the 2/3 in back is bigger. And now I have a bigger depth of field. See that? Now, if I step all the way down to an f8 or f9, well, even more so. I'm still focusing exactly at the same person at the same point. But notice now my depth of field is 1/3 in front, 2/3 in back, right? And I've got a much longer, wider depth of field that we can use to make sure things are in focus. Now, this is used artistically, right? Professional photographers will shoot a 1.4 portrait on purpose, and they'll have a beautiful background back here and trees and a house, and they'll shoot 1.4, and they'll focus right on the eye, okay? And the back, you'll see, is all blown out and all blurry, and that's on purpose. That's by design. It helps lead the viewer's eye towards what the photographer wants them to look at. Now, this blurred effect here, well, this has a name, and it's called bokeh, or bokeh, or bokeh. Everybody says it different. I say bokeh. And so what's happening in the concert hall, in the video I'm showing you, here's the front of the stage, and my camera's right here. I'm in the front of the stage shooting towards the stage. Now, I've got keyboards back here. I've got a drum kit back here. A guy playing the drums, right? And then I've got a keyboard player here, and they're playing the keys. And then I've got a guitarist up front. He's got his guitar. Uh-oh. Okay. And then I've got a singer up front too, and he's singing. Careful. Okay. And here's what's happening. My focus point missed. And so I missed hitting the guitar player. So here I am, my camera, and I'm focusing on the keyboards. Okay? And I'm also shooting wide open. So I have an aperture of, let's say, 2.8 on my camera right now. So what's happening is, here's my focal plane, and the depth of field is created from that. 1/3 in front, 2/3 behind. 2/3, 1/3. But because it's 2.8, the depth of field is small. It's only this big. So everything behind it and everything in front of it, all the way to eternity, is going to be blurred out and out of focus. So when you watch this clip, don't feel so good. Won't somebody please take me to my bed? Now you see why the players in the front are out of focus. So a quick fix is to change my aperture. Go with an f8. If I go with f8, even if I miss my focus and I end up focusing on the keyboards, well, because it's f8, I'm going to have 1/3 in front of my focal plane and 2/3 behind my focal plane in focus. And it's going to include the entire stage. So with f8, the whole stage is going to be in focus. I won't miss focus no matter what my focal point's on. I won't miss focus. Now, my focal point will give a sharper result on whatever I aim it at. If I point my focus, let me give you an example. If I point my focus directly on this guitar player, if I don't miss, and I come here and I hit him, and I'm in focus here, here's my new focal plane, but I'm f8. So everything that's 1/3 in front and 2/3 behind is in focus. And I still have the entire stage in focus. So I want to shoot the concert with an f-stop around f8 or so that I can get the entire stage in focus. I'm not looking to do an artistic type of look where the guitar player is sharp and in focus and the rest is blurred out. I don't want that right now. Right now I want everything in focus, so I need to stop down to f8. So you're probably thinking, well, how in the world are you going to shoot f8 in a dark concert hall? And the answer to that is you have to buy a camera that can do it. So I use a Nikon Z6. And there's several reasons why this camera has been optimized for video. Okay, one reason is, well, it's a full frame sensor. That's great. We all know that that's an awesome deal. The second reason is because it has less megapixels, actually. 24 megapixel camera compared to the Z7 or my D850, that's a 46 megapixel camera. Now, the reason why that's better for video is because I don't want too many pixels on my sensor cluttering up all my sensor. It also makes my processor process way harder in my camera just to be able to get these pixels out into a video or out into a video container like MPEG or MOV. So believe it or not, fewer pixels are better when you're shooting video. A Panasonic GH5, okay, is probably the best DSLR camera handheld style that you can buy for video, okay? It is a 10 megapixel camera. You'd be crazy to shoot stills with this camera. This camera's made for video. You've got enough space in between each pixel that it doesn't clutter and it doesn't run your CPU in your camera and overheat it. Right, this is why the GH5 does not have to turn off every 20 minutes, because it's got low megapixel count. This is good for video, believe it or not. Well, my Nikon Z6 has 24 megapixels, and that helps me to get a better, clearer image. This is why, as a cinematographer, if you're using DSLRs, you need to use pro gear, okay? You need to use a full-frame camera. APS-Cs will work too. I'm not going to say they don't work, but, you know, you're definitely better off with a full frame. An APS-C is a little bit smaller. I'll be using one tonight. They work. But I can collect more light onto my sensor this way. All right? The sensor is also capable of handling much higher ISOs. I'm going to be shooting tonight at a base ISO of about 3200 and going up to 4000 regularly. And that gets me footage that looks like this. So I hope that makes some sense to you, gives you an idea of why you may not be in focus. This is why we use aperture as a tool. Now here I used a more shallow depth of field. The guitar on the bottom left is out of focus. It helps drive the viewer's attention up towards the middle of the frame where the drummer's face is, and that's where I want the attention. The other major problem, these Nikons turn off. Every 20 minutes, the video stops, and there's not much you can do about it except start the video again. And, you know, they do that so the cameras don't overheat, and it sucks. It sucks, you know? Okay, so this one is my handheld. I have the Atomos on it. Got the handle, obviously, and I use my 70 to 200 Tamron G2. This is for real close-ups, you know, when there's a solo going on or something's happening in the back. I can really zoom in on someone's face and get those expressions and whatever it is. This one, D850, and it's got a 50mm lens on it right now, but this camera acts as a couple things. I put it on the slider at the front of the stage, and when I'm not doing that, I put it on the Ronin M and I run around. This one is a D5600 APS-C. It's actually using a full frame Tamron 24-70 G2 lens. This is for the back of the auditorium where the sound guy is, and it basically sits as a static shot for the entire stage. It's what we call our fallback footage. Okay, 2 nights of shooting and we are done. Big thank you to Dee Palmer, Clive Bunker, and Martin Barr of Jethro Tull, along with the rest of the band. Hope to work with you guys again soon.